Hi everyone. I'm coming on here to talk to you a little bit about the lymphatic system. And so to understand everything else that's going on with lymphedemas and radiations and chemotherapy, and how it all impacts the lymphatic system, we kind of have to understand how the lymph system works to start with. So if we break it down to a cellular level, okay, so we have our cells, and between cells, there's like this space, okay, and in the space, this is called extracellular matrix and extracellular space, okay. It's an environment that our cells live in, okay, and so whenever there's swellings, edemas, inflammation in the area, you can call it whatever you want. There is an unhappy environment, okay? And so the lymph system is 100% in charge of taking that swelling from that area and directing it back into the circulatory system, which it in turn drops into the heart. So how that works is it's so dependent on so many things. The lymph system has no pump. It relies on adjacent muscles, the pressures from our abdomen, which means breathing, deep breathing, muscle movement, joint movement, any kind of contraction, and manual lymph drainage. Okay, and so when we have a sluggish lymph system, which the lymph system is, let's be honest, very slow. In my example, whenever I talk about the lymph system, is if you've watched Winnie the Pooh. It's funny, but Eeyore is the slow guy. Hi, guys. That is the lymph system, okay? It is so slow. Let's say it pumps at a 2 naturally. Very, very slow in a minute, okay? And after you've done some movement, deep breathing, muscle pumps, joint range of motions, or manual drainage, you now increased it so that in that minute, it's able to filter and pump out more. Pump is a loose term that I'm using here, but it's not an actual pump. But it'll go from one area to the other at an increased rate. Something else is that with manual lymph drainage, you truly increase it exponentially. It's actually incredible. So lymph drainage is so important when we're looking at impaired lymph systems or people that don't have a lymph system that's working properly, or it's sluggish, it's slow. It's so important to go and get either a treatment or start moving, slowly. We're going to get back to the slowly part. So what happens is in that extracellular space, so between the cells, we have this fluid, okay? And then you have the lymph system that's here. So if this is the fluid and these are the cells, okay? The lymph system kind of sits in our skin like this, okay? If this is the skin and these are our lymph nodes, they sit up in the skin, okay? So if we press deeper as a lymph therapist, we're not being effective. So it's a very superficial, very light treatment, okay? And so what happens is whenever we do movement or especially with manual lymph drainage, because I am a CDT, this is what I'm talking about, is we do our technique over the skin, nothing is penetrated, there's no needles, there's nothing, it's all superficially done over the skin. And so we open it up, and when we pull on it, the lymph system goes like, the lymph nodes, they're pre-collectors, they go like this, okay? And so the fluid that's kind of sitting in around that lymphatic structure, it enters into the lymph system, the lymph node or precollector closes, and then it goes all the way up into the subclavian vein, and then into the heart. Okay, so that's why whenever you go see a therapist or anything, or if you're having sluggish symptoms, we go over your health history in great detail. What were your surgeries? What were your how is your heart, liver, kidneys, all these things to ensure that you're healthy and that your heart can take the load of extra fluid, you know. So basically it goes from one space where it's not wanted to another space where it can be filtered out if it's needed. It'll keep going into the circulatory system and then back out, or for the most part, from what research will show, is that it's filtered out through their kidneys and then urinated out. So that is lymphatic drainage in a nutshell, but that's also how the lymphatic system works, which is super interesting. It's very microscopic. This mass treatment, if you think about it, seems like you're doing nothing, but you're doing so much for those little cells in everywhere in your body except the brain. The brain has its own drainage pathways, so we will not be speaking about drainage to the brain or anything like that. If there's drainage that's needed for the external part of the head, neck, and spine, that's a very different issue, but anything with the central nervous system and the brain is completely not applicable for here, but it will drain from externally back out to the heart. So that is lymph system in a nutshell. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that I mentioned today, let us know in the comments below, and I'm happy to comment and maybe provide you with more information. All right. So like I always say, let's treat our lymphatic system with kindness. And now that you understand how the lymphatic system works and why it's so slow, let's get moving. But go for a nice long walk, slow. Go up the stairs slowly. You know, taking the stairs is probably the best thing because it's a slower rate. But get moving. Have a good day.